Hello from ABA Tech Show 2018 in Chicago. I'm Sharon Nelson.
And I'm John Simek.
And I'm Bob Ambrogi.
And I'm Andrew Arruda.
And we're on the road with Legal Talk Network.
And we're back. Thank you so much for joining us on the road in the Windy City. Today we're talking about creating your own legal tech startup.
Could you guys both tell us just real briefly about yourselves, a real short bio? Go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I'll go first. My name is Andrew Arruda. As I said, I'm the CEO and co-founder at Ross Intelligence. We identified that there could be a lot of efficiencies brought to the profession by using artificial intelligence. We set out and did that and started up, and excited today to chat about different tips and different ways about getting your own legal tech startup off the ground.
And I'm Bob Ambrogi, and I write about startups such as Andrew's.
So this is it's either the $50,000 question or the 50,000 foot. So I'm not really sure, but generally just tell us what the session was about that you guys did.
Yeah, I think what we did was we had a really unique perspective. Bob, there's really no one more knowledgeable when it comes to all the different iterations of different legal technology startups that there's been. And so what we laid out was, hey, this is what's happened to date. This is what's happening now. And then we chatted a little bit about firsthand perspective from what I've seen, tips and tricks as to how to run a startup and kind of get started. I think one of the key things we said off the jump, though, was, look, we're going to be talking about this as startups and not necessarily legal technology startups. And Bob can chat a little bit about kind of that distinction and what we chatted about.
The two different perspectives we brought really were, I brought the observer's viewpoint. I kind of gave the mile-high view of the landscape right now in terms of legal technology startups. And Andrew kind of reported from the trenches of what it's like to really get a startup going. To me, and I made this point at the beginning of this, we are at this amazing point in legal technology that is really unprecedented in terms of the numbers of startups that are emerging, the diversity of startups, the range of startups, and really almost in a way the ease of getting a company started. But I think what Andrew brought to this was to make clear that it may be easy to get something started, but it's not all that easy to build it into a viable product, and that's the challenge.
Well, what our listeners love above all things is they love the practical tips. So we're just gonna see how this goes in terms of time. But why don't you go ahead and give us a tip, Andrew, and then we'll ask Bob to do the same.
Yeah, I think in the spirit of what Bob just said, I think the tip that I'd like to say is put the start in startup, meaning you can have a ton of conversations, you can have your company name picked out, you can have what you're going to do. The hardest step, I think, is always taking that first step. And that means, either you're going to register your domain, you're going to have your first interview with a potential customer, you're going to be able to take that first step and actually start on your path. So it's always the scariest one, but if you do that and you jump into it, you'll get a lot more information because folks will, it becomes very real, very fast in a very good way.
I gave a number of steps, but I think they kind of all boil down to really putting some thought in advance into what you're doing and why you're doing it. Are you trying to create something that solves a need, addresses a need, solves a problem? Or are you just doing something because you think it'll be cool and fun and brilliant to look at? That's not a way to do it. Have you done your market research? Have you looked at what else is out there in this area? So really kind of thinking about what it is you're doing and why it is you're doing it.
Well, we have time, happily, for another couple of tips. So, Andrew, give us another one.
Yeah, I think the other one that you have to do, and it builds on what Bob was saying, is you have to be able to have as many conversations with your clients or potential clients as possible. And what you have to do very early on is release something, and you're not going to release a perfect product right off the jump, but you want to find like-minded folks who are excited about this and excited about the fact that, a solution to that particular problem is coming so that they can tell you, hey, you know what, wouldn't it be neat if your product did X, or wouldn't it be neat if your product did Y? And so you iterate, it's called, on that product, and you listen to them. Caveat, not all of that feedback is going to be something you have to put in. You're going to have tons of folks who give you ideas, and oftentimes they might actually say something that's totally not within the realm of what you're doing. But so you do have to kind of become like a sommelier of ideas and criticisms and know which ones taste good. And you can't ignore ones even though, they might hit home. So you do have to have that refined palate for feedback.
I've never heard it expressed that way, but I like it. Bob?
one of my other tips is very similar to what Andrew just said, which is the most successful legal tech companies that I've seen are ones that really know their customers. And by know their customers, I don't mean they just go out and hire some firm to do surveys or something. I mean, they are on the ground. They are here at Tech Show, talking to people, getting to know people. They go around to the bar association events around the country. They really listen and talk to lawyers and want to listen to them. They don't just talk about what they're doing. It's really critical. And I've seen, company after company that's defined its success by doing that, and other companies that have failed because they haven't done that.
Well, before we close it out for today, I've got one last question for you both. If our listeners would like to follow up, how can they reach you?
Well, I'm easiest to follow probably and get in touch with on Twitter. So I'm at Andrew Arruda on Twitter. You could also always check me out via LinkedIn. And I do have a personal website now, www.andrewruda.com. And there's different ways to get in contact with me there as well. And
I am at Bob Ambrogi on Twitter. That's BOBAMBROGI. I have a blog, lawsitesblog.com. I'm on Above the Law with a column there. And I host 2 other podcasts here on the Legal Talk Network, Lawyer to Lawyer and Law Technology Now.
Always an overachiever, Bob. Well, we've reached the end of the road for today's episode, and it's been wonderful.
I want to thank our guests for joining us, Andrew, Bob. We also want to thank our listeners for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please find and rate us in Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time for another episode of On the Road with Legal Talk Network.
If you'd like more information about what you've heard today, please visit LegalTalkNetwork.com. Subscribe via iTunes and RSS. Find us on Twitter and Facebook, or download our free Legal Talk Network app in Google Play and iTunes. The views expressed by the participants of this program are their own and do not represent the views of, nor are they endorsed by, Legal Talk Network, its officers, directors, employees, agents, representatives, shareholders, and subsidiaries. None of the content should be considered legal advice. As always, consult a lawyer.